The purpose of this video is to apply a static postural assessment. Static postural assessment is one of the tools that we use in order to determine any imbalances, any weaknesses, any pain points for the client. And then we use this information along with other tools, and together with the client preferences, we prescribe an exercise program which is effectively suitable for the clients and for the special needs. The postural assessment allows us to refer clients to an AHP if there's anything wrong, or if there are any issues that are out of our scope as PTs. The postural assessment looks essentially at 5 complexes of the body. The first one is the foot and ankle, the second one is the knee complex, the third one is hips and pelvis, and the fourth one is spine and shoulder, and the fifth and the last is the head carriage. It's important to note that we should look at the body through the myofascial lines from an integrating aspect, where if something happening in one part of the body, it actually affects all the rest. We have a plumb line here to represent gravity. Ido, could you please get closer? Now I'm going to line Ido up in the midline of his body. Going through his nose, chin, and umbilicus. Now, Ido, do you mind to take off your top? Are you comfortable with that?
Sure.
Thank you. So the static postural assessment is done from the anterior view, which we'll start with, the front, from the posterior view, which is the back, and from both sides of the body. So as I said, I want to line you up exactly in the midline. Great. So we're going to start with the anterior view, and the first complex will be the foot and ankles. Well, Ido's feet are reasonably normal, pointing ahead with slightly toe out. If we check his arches, we can see that they are flattened and collapsing in, creating this pronation fit. Going up to his knee complex, we can see that they're following his feet, and what we can see here about Ido's knees is that that they are coming out from the femur and then coming in the tibia, creating a typical bow-legged position and varus knees. Touching Ido's patellas shows that they're fairly tight, and we will recheck it in our next views. So we have toe out, we have pronation, flat feet, yes, we do have bow-legged and varus and tightness. Now the next complex to check is the hip and pelvis. With Ido permission, I'll touch his ASIS point, anterior, superior, iliac spine. So Ido, I'll just take that a little bit in order to get into your points. Well, what we can see here clearly is that the right point is a little bit longer than the left point, that might be a sign that Ido's right leg is a little bit longer than his left one. Now, going up into his shoulders, we will start with to check if there is any rotation going with Ido's shoulders. So the first thing to check is the carrying angle and the rotation of the humerus. Now, looking at Ido's hand, we can see clearly his first finger and his thumb, which says that there is no rotation happening in Ido's shoulder. Now, Ido, I saw that you struggle a bit. I haven't told you, and I'm sorry about it. Could you please march on the spot? Breathe in, breathe out. Yeah, loosen up. Yeah, and just try to hold a relaxed position as much as possible. I will just line you up again. Yeah, nose, chin, umbilicus. Perfect. Okay, so we saw that there is no internal rotation happening in Ido's shoulders. The next thing to check is if there are any differences in height with Ido's shoulders. So I'll go to his apex point and then to the bones. And what we can see here is that his right shoulder is a little bit lower, a little bit shorter than his right one, which creates a deviation of this one being depressed, the right lower one depressed, and the left being elevated. I would like to confirm it, so I will check Ido's hand position again, and we can see clearly that the right hand is a little bit lower than the left one. Checking the last complex is Ido's head. Looking at his head, there is no tilt or rotation. His head is not flexed or rotated. Okay, now we will do the posterior view. Ido, could you please turn around? And I would like you to march. I'll just, all those things that I found here. March on and loosen up, breathe in, breathe out. And then just stand still, holding a relaxed position. Maintain a relaxed position. I'll move you, yeah, because I want you to be in the midline of your body. Perfect. So what we'll do now, we will reinforce what we found in the anterior view, and we'll see if we can find any new information. So starting off with the feet and ankle, we can see that Ido's heels are just standing nicely on the ground. We can see, as we saw before, arches are flattened, collapsing in, creating this pronation fit. Going up to his knee, again, reinforce the tibia relatively to the femur. We can see that bow-legged position and varus knees. Checking for the differences in height with his creases. There are no differences in height in the creases of the knees. Checking his patella again. Yeah, the tightness that we felt before is definitely, we can see it in here, and we will recheck it. Moving up to his hip and pelvis, with Ida's permission, I will touch you again in the PSIS, which are the posterior superior iliac spine, and I will find them and touch them. Yeah, no differences in height. Looking at Ida's spine from the lumbar up to the thorax, there is no S curve, no C curve, there is a straight line, no scoliosis is happening in here. Checking his scapula, again, reinforcement what we saw before. The right one is depressed and lower than the left one, which is elevated. Looking at his head, no rotation, looks straight ahead, no flexed and no rotated. Great. Ido, could you please turn around? Now I want your right side parallel to the plumb line. I'll just, what we just found. So now we're going to do the right one. Thank you, Ido. March on the spot, loosen up, breathe in, breathe out. Perfect. Now, Ido, I'm going to line up your lateral malleolus parallel to the plumb line. So I want you a little bit more closer. Yeah. Great. So I've lined up Ida's lateral malleolus parallel to the plumb line. So this is our reference point and everything will be compared to this point. So if there is anything forward or backwards, this is our reference point. So looking at Ida's feet and ankle, we can clearly see that there is a dorsiflexion happening in here. It makes all his body comes forward. Looking at the position of the tibia, could you please hold it up? At the position of the tibia relatively to the femur, we can see that Ida's tibias are pressed in comparing to the femur, which is going out, and then we can see his knees sticking out, which are telling us that Ida's knees are locked out and flexed, and touching the patella just confirm it. Going up into the pelvis and the hips, we can definitely see an interior translation of the hips. There is an interior pelvic tilt. Going up into the lumbar spine, there is, could you please come? Actually, we'll see it from the other side. We can see here a slight lordosis in his lumbar spine. Going up into his thorax, we can see a marked kyphosis, causing his right shoulder to be rounded and rotated in a forward position. Looking to his head carriage, we can definitely see that there is a forward posture of the head. Thank you, Ido. Could you please turn around to the other side? Yeah, and then we would be able to see from the left side. Great. Let's see. Yeah. Lateral malleolus. Yeah. Lateral malleolus is just, yeah. Ido's lateral malleolus is lined up parallel to the plumb line. Looking at his feet and ankle, we can definitely see that there's a dorsiflexion happening in here, bringing all his body forward. Looking at his knees, we can see that his knees are flexed and the tibia is pressed in, comparing to the femur. Flexed knees in a forward translation. The same with the hips, what we saw before. We can see that that there is an translation of the hips. We can see an anterior pelvic tilt. Looking at Ido lumbar spine, we can definitely see a little bit of lordosis lumbar curve. Going up into his thorax, we can see a marked kyphosis, which affects his left shoulder, which we can see that is rounded and rotated in. Going up to his head, we can definitely see that we have a forward head posture. Thank you, Ido.
Thank you.
The purpose of this video is to apply a dynamic postural assessment. In the dynamic postural assessment, we are going to use the information that has been gathered from the static postural assessment about the ankle, hip, and thorax. Three major complexes, three rocks, and how they relate to each other, moving the body using gravity, ground force, and momentum. As mentioned before, it's another tool in our tools box that we use in order to determine any imbalances or potential weaknesses or pain points for the clients, and then we use this information along with other tools, and together with the client preferences, we can prescribe an effective exercise program which is most appropriate for them and for their special needs. If requires, we refer our client to an AHP if there's something wrong or if there are issues that are out of our scope as PTs. The dynamic postural assessment includes three parts. The first one is the sagittal step, looking at the ankle complex from the front view and the side view. The second one is a lateral step or lunge, looking at the hip complex from different viewpoints. And the last one is the transverse step, looking at the thoracic spine. It's important to note that we are not trying to fix anything. We are purely want to see if we can facilitate a change. This is our second client, Ido. Do you consent to be in this video?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you mind taking off your top? Are you comfortable with that?
Sure.
Thank you. So we're going to start with the ankle complex with the sagittal step. So the sagittal step, could you turn around, Ido, that you can see me? So the sagittal step is actually a simple step forward. Let's start with your left leg, please, Ido. Yep. While I'm looking at you from the front. Okay, so what we can see that there is a medial deviation of the knee, and there's a medial deviation of the hip. We can see that the stance foot toes are not going out, and there's no excessive pronation of front foot. If we're looking from the side view, we can see that the heel is lifting on the rear foot. The heel is not lifting on the front foot, and the hip, the thorax, and the trunk all rock forward. Thank you, Ido. Would you like to do the other one, please? Again, there's a medial deviation of the knee. There's a medial deviation of the hip. The stance foot toes are not going out. There's no excessive pronation of the front foot. I'll look at you from the sides. Please keep on going. As we can see, the heel is lifting on rear foot. The heel is not lifting on the front foot. And again, the hip, the thorax, and trunk all rock forward. Thank you, Ido. Now we're going to move to the hip complex, doing the lateral step. What we want to see here is if Ido can take his hip, knee and toe in a nice alignment. Can his body stop his ankle from taking all the ground force? So, Ido, the lateral step is just, yep, you keep on doing it while I'm looking at you. So what we can see here is that the knee is not stacking over foot, the hips are not stacking over foot, the head not stacking over foot. Looking at the trunk, there is no excessive flexion of trunk, and the lateral border of foot is off the ground. Could you please change legs? Thank you, Ido. Again, knee not stacking over foot, hips not stacking over foot, head not stacking over foot, and there is no excessive flexion of trunk. The lateral border of the foot is off the ground. Let's change legs. Oh, sorry, we've already done it. Thank you, Ido. We will move to the third and the last one, the transverse step and reach down. That what we want to see here is what are the relationship between the scapula and the spine, and it will tell us what is going on with your thorax, with your thoracic spine. So what we're doing here is the transverse step and reach down. And I will look at you from the back. Thank you, Ido. Let's start with your left leg. Left leg, please. Thank you. Thank you. So there is no movement in the scapula and the spine, probably due to Ido's kyphosis. There is no excessive trunk rotation. The head doesn't follow the hand, and the stance leg does not straighten. Thank you, Ido. Could you please swap legs? Great, thank you. Again, there is no movement in the scapula and the spine. Again, probably due to Ido's kyphosis. There is no excessive trunk rotation. The head doesn't follow the hand, and the stance leg does not straighten. Thank you, Ido.
Thank you.